Well, hello, Dolly.
He's got a playmate of his own.
Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this movie review is going to be for none other than the fourth installment of the horror franchise I am currently reviewing, and this installment is going to be for a film that was released till about 7 years after the last one, a film that kind of started a new kind of wackier version of this character, and led on to the era we kind of have now today. That's of course none other than 1998's Bride of Chucky, aka one of the most divisive horror sequels in history. There's some people who like this, and there's some people who hate this movie, for leading into the era we have now today. So yeah, because you can see I don't just have a Chucky figurine, I also have a little Tiffany right here, that's going to be present for this review. Maybe she'll be present for the seed one, but probably not for the curse or cult ones. But anyway, point is, this film, let's get on with the plot. Well, the plot of this movie is that serial killer Charles Lee Ray is back. This time his girlfriend Tiffany has revived him, once again in the form of the popular Chucky doll. Shortly after the happy couple's reunion, Chucky kills her and brings her back in the form of a girl's bridal doll. The two then embark on a killing spree en route to dig up Ray's corpse, which was buried with a satanic voodoo charm capable of bringing back the dead. Yeah, so how was this movie made? Well, following the box office failure and critical failure of Child's Play 3, Don Mancini and David Kirshner decided that the series required a new direction, and decided against returning the character of Andy Barclay, which was, I guess, kind of for the best. Work on the film began in 1996 with the working title Child's Play 4, Bride of Chucky, inspired by the release of Scream. Mancini said, like most genres, the horror genre goes in cycles, and I think we can thank Kevin Williamson and Scream for reinvigorating the market. Over the years, I had been imagining new scenarios for this series. With his previous successes, we knew it was just a matter of time before we'd be bringing Chucky back, and David Kirshner and I both felt that it was important to bring him back in a new way. They wanted to elevate the series and reinvent it, go beyond what they had done before, and what they've ended up with this, which was incredibly part horror, part comedy, part romance, and part road trip movie. They thought it would be a really cool blend of the genuinely creepy and the really funny. So when it came to hiring directors, they decided to have Ronnie Yu come in, and newcomer Ronnie Yu at the time, direct the film after Kirshner and Manny were amazed by his film, The Bride with White Hair, and was allowed to use his creative freedom and the ability to hire his collaborators Peter Pa and David Wolf from Hong Kong. Inspiration to create a girlfriend for Chucky came from David Kirshner after he saw a copy of the classic Bride of Frankenstein in a video store. Mancini loved the idea and created Tiffany. He said that after all, two dolls would be running around the country together and killing people a la Natural Born Killer dolls or Barbie and Clyde would be a pretty funny concept to him. And when it came to getting actresses for Tiffany, Mancini chose Jennifer Tilly as his first choice to play Tiffany, after being impressed with her in Bound and Bullets over Broadway. Gina Gerson, Tilly's co-star in Bound, encouraged her to take the role. and several months before production actually began on the film, Kevin Yeager and his team began to create animatronic puppets for Chucky and Tiffany, and for Chucky alone, 9 different puppets were used. So eventually, after the movie was successfully complete, filmed, and ready to be released, the movie would go on to be released into theaters on October 16th, 1998. The film grossed over $50 million worldwide on a budget of $25 million, which was very successful for the series and is currently the series' highest grossing movie. And it received mixed reviews from critics and fans of the films. When it comes to the fans, there are some fans who like this movie for its clever comedy and different approach, and there are some who hate this movie for its more comedic approach and felt no need for another Chucky film after Three's ending. However, I'm one of the few fans that considers this movie their third favorite of the franchise. And now you're all going to be punching the screens angry. You probably were waiting for me to bash this movie to death. Some of you people who hate the new Chucky today were probably waiting for me to rip this movie apart. Nope, sorry guys. You're going to be long disappointed. So if you guys are mad about my opinion, I probably would suggest not watching the rest of this video because you're not going to get an angry rant if you were expecting a rant. So if you were expecting a rant, I'd shut the video off because that's not going to happen with this one. Because I actually enjoy this movie a lot, and I don't care what people say. It's a lot of fun to watch because of how ridiculous the concept is. Although the idea of a kid's doll being possessed by the spirit of a mass murderer has always been rather comical, it wasn't until the 4th film in the Child's Play series that the makers fully embraced the sheer lunacy of the premise, so opting to play things much more for laughs than for scares. Although there's still plenty of gore splatter for plenty of gorehounds in this movie to enjoy. Talented Hong Kong director Ronnie Yu oversees some great proceedings, definitely translating the witty tongue-in-cheek script into a slick and thoroughly enjoyable cinematic ride. And similarly, the excellent cast handled the camera material perfectly, with Stabile and Heigl making a likable couple, and then Tilly still in the show as a blonded, buxom pouting PCV miniskirt foul-mouthed temperous Tiffany, and Kevin Yeager's impressively expressive doll effects also go a long way to making the film such a success. And what's even more interesting, guys, that after this movie, Ronnie Yu would even go on to direct the crossover Freddy vs. Jason. And it kind of hints it too, because in the very beginning scene, we get this very great little evidence locker, and what's cool, we get to see Freddy's glove, Michael's mask, Leatherface's chainsaw, and Jason's mask and machete, all in that evidence locker. I mean, yeah, the Jason mask kind of looks a little cheap, but still, it's kind of like all those movies exist within the same universe as Child's Play. Seems kind of cool. It's like this movie takes place after all those killers have been slayed. They are long gone. And even Chucky's remains have been in that evidence locker with those. So in kind of a way, those killers have been pretty much taken down in this version. So I think that was pretty nice. And I also love the death scenes in this. The death scenes are much more gorier and inventive this time around. Even though it doesn't have the suspense the first two movies had, it's still it's still the third best of the series, mixing slasher and humor, especially the bantering between the two dolls, and the Chucky and Tiffany kind of have somewhat of a love-hate relationship in this movie. There's a moment where they'll love each other, and there's a moment where they're trying to fight each other. And they even have a sex scene in this movie, and their sex scene was really hilarious. I think this must have been the sex scene that inspired the sex scene in Team America World Police, where it's kind of ridiculous for a Chucky movie to have a sex scene, though, but it's actually still kind of funny how they pull it off. The screenplay is even crazier than before. Directing fills the film with the life it deserves, and the puppets are really well made. I can just imagine the puppeteers during the sex scene thinking, what shit are we making here? But they really made it look terrific and resemble a bit less of a midget in a costume. Although it was obviously clearly looked like it at times, and really add to the complete nonsense-filled fun the film possesses. The film just goes to show that not every horror sequel or every film in the Chucky franchise needs to be all serious. Sometimes it's good to be as draft as you can be, just to lighten up a sometimes dull world. I kind of really enjoyed about it. And yeah, and yes, guys, Andy is no longer part of the series at the time being. He was no longer part of the series with this movie until he came back in Curse. But I guess that was kind of a good thing because like 3 movies starring Andy is enough. I mean, people can like say like at least Don Mancini had a good brain to say like, okay, you know what? Andy Barclay's story perfectly ended with 3. Let's try to do something else. Try to do something a little more original with the character. Have the character pursue like a different kind of story arc. Have like some different characters are getting pursued by Chucky. Have some different human protagonists for the story. Yeah, and that's kind of what he did here. This time, our new human main characters are a young couple as the main characters, Jade and Jesse. And I gotta say, on to the bad qualities. I don't really enjoy watching them. They're not really interesting to get through, and it's really less interesting when the movie does get less interesting when the teenagers enter the picture. Like with the icon, like they're just characters we don't care about. Basically we don't care if Chucky or Tiffany kill them. We just they're just not really enjoyable characters. I don't really have fun watching their scenes. Sometimes I kind of like to skip Jesse and Jade's scenes because they're really just filler. Like I would have preferred if the movie were only just about Chucky and Tiffany as the protagonists. Like I think the movie would have been way better that way. To me, than just having like some new victims. I mean, they're kind of like Jade's kind of just as annoying as Laurie from Freddy vs. Jason, if you guys think about it. Like Mancini took the drive-in book of horror cliches to create these side characters, which includes an offensive homosexual stereotype written by openly gay man as well. And my other bad quality with this film is that this film should have been longer, with a more satisfying ending. Like Chucky has done the down below chant so many times now that, like at this rate, I just wanted to see it actually work for a change. And then in the DVD commentary, Don Mancini said the film was even going to have Jesse possessed by Chucky, and that the final showdown had more to it. I would have liked to see this instead of the weak ending that wound up in the film that would set up the worst Chucky movie that would come after this 6 years later, and that's going to be the next review. I'm going to be watching it after I make this review. Like, for such an elaborate, imaginative horror movie, like, they basically started off Bride of Chucky good, but then they ended Bride of Chucky on a whimper instead of a bang. Other than that, really, like, aside from the annoying human characters and just the boring teenage couple that I don't really like seeing on screen, but thankfully, at least after this, we never saw them again. This was their only appearance. They've never made another appearance, and I hope they don't. But rest in peace to John Ritter, though. No disrespect, though, but I really hope we don't ever have to see Jade again, because Jade really annoys me. And so thankfully, this was her only appearance in the franchise. But now that we've gone through the bad qualities, let's get on with back to the good qualities. Our other good qualities that we also have Chucky's new look in this movie. His new look is pretty badass and makes him look a little bit more menacing and terrifying. It's a good way to show that his death scene in Child's Play 3, where he got thrown into the fan and shredded to pieces, still did a lot of damage to him, and that can never be hidden. Instead of like just like with the previous 2 Child's Play sequels, just lazily find a new doll body all over again, just create a new doll, and then just have his soul just get into that doll all over again at this rate. Like, they actually kept this doll body for once and just stitched them back together. I mean, although it's kind of weird how they managed to find his remains in that van, or it kind of looked like he was really shredded to pieces or something, but my guess is they probably just shut down the fan after the fair closed, and they probably like found like some of his face like underneath it, and And Tiffany did use some other parts in her house to stitch it back together, so technically that's why it kind of looks a little bit like that, because like, yeah. But I like that Child's Play 3 still has somewhat of an impact on his new design. And I can see why maybe some people would hate this movie, because it does kind of get a little too parody, and at times it does. There's sometimes when it does try to be a little too much like Scream, but I can get past those bad qualities. Like trying to be like Scream too much. It's not like those moments are not really way too obvious, like how Halloween H20 did it. Like we're trying to be like Scream is way too obvious in H20 20 years later. Like this one like still does try to be its own movie, and the comedy's not always forced. Like there's still times when it actually tries to be scary. At least this one actually does try to be a horror movie, unlike certain other horror sequels such as Freddy's Dead or Texas Chainsaw: The Next Generation. This movie still actually has horror elements in it. And so at least there's that. But that's pretty much it for my review of Bride of Chucky. So overall, if you want to see an installment that actually tries a different approach instead of doing the same damn shit over and 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 over again, then give this movie a watch. You might like it or you might hate it, but it depends. It might depend on your personal opinions due to how divisive it is with fans. But I think it's still pretty good for what it is. Anyway, that's it for my review of Bride of Chucky. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Bride of Chucky, here's how I'm clearly going to rank it. I'm going to give Bride of Chucky an 8 out of 10. And there we go. That's it for my review of Bride of Chucky, and we're done those first 4. And now we're going to move on to the big, bad next one that I've now going to have to rewatch all over again. I rewatched this one in high school, never saw it again, so this is going to be my second time watching it. Excuse me, that's going to be my second time watching it. Man, this is going to be fun. Just fucking kill me now, please. And until then, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.